My name is Claire, and at 32, I've come to understand that family ties don't always mean loyalty. Sometimes, the most fitting revenge is letting people face the fallout of their own choices. It all began at what was meant to be a joyful occasion. My younger sister Maris, aged 29, had just bought her first home with her husband Henry, and they were throwing a housewarming party. Maris had always been the family's pride, marrying early, having 2 kids by 25, and convincing our parents she was flawless, despite her string of poor financial decisions. I, however, was the family's letdown. Never mind that I had a thriving career as a financial advisor, owned my own house, and had worked hard to buy a beautiful vacation cabin. They didn't care that I was happy with my dog, Finn, or that I was self-sufficient. When I arrived at the party, I brought a fine bottle of wine and a generous gift card from Maris's new home. About 30 people were there, family, friends, and neighbors. Maris greeted me warmly, wrapping me in a big hug and thanking me for coming. For a moment, I thought our relationship was improving. I should have known better. An hour into the event, Maris clinked her glass to get everyone's attention. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she said, her voice dripping with the fake sweetness I'd come to recognize. "Henry and I are so grateful for your support as we start this new chapter." Then her tone shifted. "Actually, there's something else I'd like to address while we're all together." She locked eyes with me, and my heart sank. "Claire, could you come up here for a moment?" The crowd parted as I walked toward her. My parents stood beside her, their faces hinting at trouble. The room grew quiet as all eyes turned to us. "Claire," Maris said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "you know how tough things have been for Henry and me, with the kids and the new mortgage." I nodded cautiously, unsure where this was headed but feeling uneasy. "Well, we've discussed it as a family," she continued, glancing at our parents, "and we think it would be really kind of you to let us use your vacation cabin. You hardly use it, and we could make wonderful memories there with the kids." It sounded like a done deal, as if I'd already agreed, but I hadn't. This was the first I'd heard of it. "Maris, I started, but Mom cut in, stepping forward with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We think you should just give it to Maris and Henry. It's the family thing to do." The room was dead silent. I felt 30 pairs of eyes boring into me, waiting for my response. My face burned with embarrassment and anger. "You want me to give away my vacation home?" I asked, incredulous. "It's not like you're using it properly," Dad said, his voice carrying the commanding tone he'd always used to shut me down. "Vacation homes are for families. You just go there alone with that dog." "That dog has a name," I said, my voice rising. "And yet it's my property, which I worked hard to buy." Maris let out a sharp laugh. "Come on, Claire, don't be greedy. Think of my kids, your niece and nephew. They deserve those experiences." "They can have experiences at countless other vacation rentals," I said, struggling to stay calm. "I'm not giving away my property." Mom's facade cracked. "You don't even have children," she shouted loud enough for everyone to hear. "What do you need a family cabin for? Just keep wandering with your dog and stop being so selfish." Her cruelty stunned me. These were the people supposed to love me, yet they were publicly shaming me for not having kids, a painful topic they knew I'd struggled with due to infertility. Dad stepped forward, his face red with anger. "Your sister has kids, real responsibilities. You're just a barren leech, hoarding resources that could help an actual family." The word barren hit like a punch. I'd heard Dad's harsh words before, but never so publicly. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. Maris smirked, clearly enjoying this. "About time the family failure contributed something," she sneered. "Maybe this'll make you useful for once." I stood there, trembling with fury and humiliation, as my family tore me apart in front of everyone. Some guests looked away, embarrassed, while others watched with morbid curiosity. No one defended me. "I said no," I managed through gritted teeth. "It's my property and I'm not giving it up." That's when Dad lost it. His hand flew up, striking my cheek with a sharp backhand that sent me stumbling. The sound echoed in the silent room. Then, to my horror, applause broke out. Not from everyone, some looked shocked, but enough to fill the space with clapping. Maris beamed like she'd won a prize. Mom nodded approvingly. Dad adjusted his shirt as if he'd done something necessary. I stood there, hand on my stinging cheek, staring at the people who were supposed to be my family. The betrayal cut deeper than the physical pain. "Fine," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I'll remember this." I walked out, leaving behind the gift I'd brought and any hope I had for my family's loyalty. The drive home was a blur. Finn greeted me with his usual enthusiasm, and I buried my face in his fur, letting the tears fall. My cheek throbbed, my heart ached, and I felt utterly alone. But as the shock faded, a new emotion took hold. Cold, calculated resolve. I'd always been the responsible one. While Maris made reckless financial choices, I'd quietly supported her. I co-signed her first car loan when her credit was shot. I lent her money for emergencies countless times. I even helped with the down payment on her new house, though she swore me to secrecy. Most crucially, I'd been managing our parents' finances for 5 years, ever since Dad asked me to take over when Mom's memory started slipping. I'd organized their accounts, set up their retirement, handled their taxes, and ensured their bills were paid automatically. Mom's condition had worsened, but she still had lucid days and appreciated my help. They trusted me completely with their financial lives. Maris had no clue I was involved. As a financial advisor, I knew money meant power, and power could be revoked as easily as it was given. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and started making calls. The first was to the bank holding Maris's mortgage, which I'd helped her secure by co-signing and contributing to the down payment. I told the loan officer that, due to recent family conflicts involving financial coercion, I was worried about my role as co-signer and wanted to explore my options. "I understand, Ms. Thompson," the officer said. "I and my remove yourself as co-signer, but you can request a review of the loan based on changed circumstances. Given what you're describing, we'd need to reassess if the primary borrowers qualify independently." "And if they don't?" I asked. "We'd explore modification options, but if no agreement is reached, the loan could be called in." Perfect. The second call was to relinquish my power of attorney over my parents' finances. I'd meticulously documented everything over the years, and what I found was alarming. Dad had been secretly funneling money to Maris from Mom's care fund, over $30,000 in unrepaid loans. Worse, he'd opened credit accounts in Mom's name without her consent. With Mom's cognitive decline, I documented everything: bank statements, emails, and screenshots, all legally obtained as their financial agent before stepping down. The third call was to Adult Protective Services. "I'd like to report potential financial elder abuse," I told the intake worker. "I have evidence of someone systematically siphoning funds from an elderly woman with memory issues, including opening credit accounts in her name." I sent them everything: proof of unauthorized transfers, credit applications, and Mom's vulnerability due to her condition. "This is serious," the worker said. "We'll launch an investigation immediately and freeze the accounts to prevent further abuse." The fourth call was to Maris's employer. She worked as a bookkeeper for a small family business, and I knew her boss, Miss Benton, valued financial integrity. A quick check of public records showed Maris had undisclosed judgments for unpaid debts, which she hadn't reported during her hiring. I didn't accuse her, I simply asked Ms. Benton if she was aware of these judgments, as they could affect Maris's bonding insurance required for her role. The fifth call was to the IRS. Dad's loans to Maris, totaling over $30,000 and never repaid, were considered taxable income, if forgiven. If Maris hadn't reported them, it was tax evasion. I provided detailed records of every transfer and gift, all legally obtained during my role as financial agent. The sixth call was to Child Protective Services. I'd never make false claims about child welfare, but Maris's social media was a gold mine of troubling content she'd posted herself. Photos of her kids in questionable situations, posts about leaving them alone, and comments about using medication to make them sleep for her convenience. All public, all documented. I sent it to CPS with a request for a wellness check. The final call was to Henry's employer, a construction firm with strict policies on domestic violence due to liability concerns. Photos of my bruised face, combined with statements from party guests shocked by Dad's actions, painted a clear picture of a violent family dynamic. I didn't accuse Henry. I just shared facts about the family environment and let the company decide if it met their standards. Then I waited. It didn't take long. 3 days later, Maris called, hysterical. "What did you do?" she screamed. "The bank's calling our loan. They want the full balance in 30 days or we're facing foreclosure." "I withdrew as co-signer," I said calmly. "It's my legal right." "You can't do this. We'll lose the house." "You should have thought of that before publicly shaming me and demanding my property." "Claire, please," she said, her tone shifting a fake sweetness. "I'm sorry about the party. Things got out of hand, but you can't punish my kids." "Your kids?" I said. "The ones you were so worried about making memories with? Maybe they should ask their grandfather where their grandmother's care money went." Silence. "What are you talking about?" Maris asked, her voice shaky. "Adult Protective Services is very curious about Dad's financial dealings," I said. "Turns out, stealing from someone with dementia is a serious crime." The next day, Dad called. "Claire, we need to talk," he said, trying to sound authoritative but clearly panicked. "People are asking questions about Mom's accounts." "I'm sure they are," I said. "I handed over all the financial records to the authorities. You had no right." "I had every right. You gave me power of attorney, remember? That means I'm legally bound to protect Mom's interests." "Those were family loans." "Those were thefts from a vulnerable person," I corrected. "The police are very interested in the credit cards you opened in Mom's name without her knowledge." Silence stretched. "What do you want?" he finally asked. "I want you to face the consequences of your actions," I said, "just like you forced me to at Maris's party." The third blow came when Maris lost her job. Ms. Benton discovered not only the hidden judgments, but also Maris's creative bookkeeping to cover her financial issues. Taking from petty cash, even with intent to repay, is still theft. The fourth blow was the IRS audit, which found Maris hadn't declared over $40,000 in forgiven loans and gifts over 3 years. The penalties and back taxes were hefty, with wage garnishment kicking in immediately. The fifth blow was CPS's wellness check, which uncovered conditions concerning enough to mandate parenting classes and regular monitoring. Nothing immediately endangered the kids, but it added stress to Maris and Henry's lives. Henry lost his job when his employer deemed his link to domestic violence a liability risk. The dominoes were falling fast. 2 weeks after Henry's job loss, my cousin Nina, Maris's childhood friend, called. She'd been at the party but hadn't clapped, horrified by the scene. "Claire, I need to tell you something," she said, her voice trembling. "I should have said this sooner, but I was scared. What happened at the party wasn't spontaneous." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "They planned it," she said. "I overheard Maris, your mom, and Dad talking before the party. Maris said she'd been working on getting your cabin for months. She called you too selfish to give it up willingly, so they planned to pressure you publicly to make you cave." The betrayal cut deeper than I'd imagined. They'd orchestrated the entire scene to exploit my perceived weakness. "Maris said if they did it in front of everyone, you'd be too embarrassed to say no," Nina continued. "She laughed about it, Claire. She said you always fold under pressure and would probably just hand over the keys." I felt sick. The whole event was a calculated ambush to force my surrender. "There's more," Nina said. "After you left, Maris bragged about softening you up for months with sob stories about money troubles. She said she documented every time you helped her financially to use as evidence that you always give in when family needs help." "Evidence for what?" I asked. She was going to sue you if public shaming didn't work. She thought she could convince a judge to force you to give up the cabin as part of a family support obligation, using your past generosity as proof. The audacity was staggering. Maris had been building a legal case to take my property, weaponizing my kindness. "Why tell me now?" I asked. "Because Maris called me yesterday," Nina said. "She's desperate, Claire. She's talking about suing you for ruining her family. She thinks you're doing this out of spite, not because she and your parents broke the law. She's been asking about your income, job, and where you go, trying to get mutual friends to take her side, saying you're a cruel monster destroying her kids. Typical Maris, playing the victim while dodging accountability. But now I had a heads up, and I intended to use it. Nina, I need a favor, I said. If Maris contacts you again, record the conversation. Can you do that? I think so. But why? Because Maris is about to learn I'm better at this game than she thinks. After hanging up, I dug deeper into Maris's social media. It was a treasure trove of incriminating posts painting a different picture from her sob stories. While claiming poverty to me and our parents, she posted about expensive dinners, new clothes, and weekend trips. Often during the same periods, she begged me for emergency loans. She'd been lying about her finances to milk sympathy and money. Worse, she bragged about working the system and taking advantage of people with more money than brains. She'd even shared texts mocking me for being a sucker for helping her. I saved everything and built a file. Then I did something unthinkable 6 months earlier. I launched a social media campaign. I posted a detailed account of the party, including photos of my bruised face and statements from decent guests who were appalled by Dad's actions. I didn't need to exaggerate. The truth was damning enough. I also shared Maris's posts about her lavish lifestyle while claiming hardship, plus her comments mocking those who helped her, all previously public. The post exploded in our social circles. Dozens shared their own stories of Maris's deceit, unpaid debts, and manipulation. Party guests admitted feeling uneasy but unsure how to intervene. Maris's neighbors and Henry's former co-workers revealed similar experiences. Maris borrowing money with fake stories about medical or car issues, mirroring her lies to me. She owed money all over town. The campaign also served another purpose. It created a public record of Maris's behavior, making any lawsuit she filed harder to win. Her own words exposed her. 3 days after my post, Maris showed up at my workplace. I was in a client meeting when my assistant interrupted. "Miss Thompson, there's a woman here claiming to be your sister. She's upset." Through my office's glass wall, I saw Maris pacing, yelling at my secretary. She looked disheveled, angry, desperate. "Reschedule my 3 p.m., I told my client. "I have a family matter to handle." Maris started shouting the moment I entered the lobby. "How dare you post that trash about me online? You're ruining my reputation." "Your reputation ruined itself," I said calmly, aware my colleagues were watching. "I just shared the truth. You posted private conversations. That's illegal." "I posted things you shared publicly on your own social media," I corrected. "Nothing was private." Maris's face twisted with rage. "You're spiteful, and everyone sees it now. No one believes you're the victim." "The comments on my post say otherwise," I replied. "In fact, plenty of people have shared their own stories about your behavior. You turned people against me." "I didn't have to," I said. "Your actions did that." That's when she made a mistake. Maris pulled out her phone and started recording, hoping to catch me saying something incriminating. "Say that again," she demanded, holding up the phone. "Tell everyone how you deliberately destroyed an innocent family because you're a bitter, childless woman who hates seeing others happy." I smiled into her camera. "I stopped enabling financial abuse and reported crimes to the authorities. If you want to record this, let's get the facts straight." I pulled out my own phone and started recording. "Maris, are you denying that you and our parents planned to publicly pressure me into giving you my property?" "That's not. Are you denying Dad stole from Mom's medical fund to give you money?" "He was helping family." "Are you denying you lied about your finances while borrowing from multiple people?" "Everyone struggles. Are you denying you clapped when Dad hit me?" Maris paled. She'd started recording to trap me, but instead, she'd created evidence against herself. "You can't prove any of that," she stammered. "Actually, I can," I said, still recording. "I have bank records, social media posts, witness statements, and now this conversation where you haven't denied anything." Realizing her mistake, Maris stopped recording and lunged for my phone. I stepped back. "Don't touch me," I said loudly. You've already been part of one assault. I won't let you try another. Security arrived. My assistant had called them when Maris started yelling. As they escorted her out, Maris turned back with one last threat. This isn't over, Claire. I'll make sure everyone knows who you really are. They already do, I replied. That's your problem. The lobby confrontation, caught on building security cameras, somehow hit social media. Maris's aggression, failure to deny my accusations, and attempt to grab my phone painted her as the aggressor. The fallout was swift. Her remaining friends pulled away. Family members who'd stayed neutral picked a side, mine. Henry's parents, who'd taken them in, started questioning his choice of wife. But Maris wasn't done. A week later, my lawyer called. Claire, I've got interesting news, he said. Your sister hired a lawyer. They're threatening to sue you for defamation, emotional distress, and something called tortious interference with family relationships. I almost laughed. She's suing me for telling the truth? Her lawyer sent a demand letter asking for damages and a public apology, he said. They also want you to stop investigating their finances. What's their case like? Weak, he said. Everything you've shared is factual or based on your documented experiences. Truth is a complete defense against defamation. The emotional distress claim won't hold up since they orchestrated a public attack on you. And tortious interference with family relationships isn't a valid claim here. You can't be sued for exposing crimes just because the perpetrators are family. He paused. They're likely trying to scare you into backing down. Maris's lawyer probably hopes you'll settle to avoid the hassle and cost of a lawsuit. They picked the wrong person to bully, I said. File a countersuit. Within 6 weeks, the dominoes had fallen. Maris and Henry faced foreclosure, bankruptcy, tax liens, job losses, and CPS oversight. Dad was under investigation for elder abuse and fraud, with charges looming. Mom was in a care facility, her finances secure, though she was heartbroken by Dad's betrayal. And me? I was at my vacation cabin with Finn, sipping wine and watching the sunset over the mountains. I'd also started spending time with Luke, a kind man from my hiking club who admired my independence. Maris, Dad, and even relatives who'd watched my humiliation tried contacting me, pleading for family unity and forgiveness. I blocked them all. I kept in touch only with Mom, visiting her regularly at the care facility. On her good days, she was grateful I'd protected her from Dad's financial abuse, though devastated by his actions. I always knew you were the strong one, she said during one visit. I just wish I'd been brave enough to see the truth sooner. 3 months after the party, Maris showed up at my house. She looked awful, gaunt, exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes. Her car was an old, beat-up Honda, likely all they could afford after losing their nicer vehicles. Claire, please, she said softly as I opened the door. We need to talk. I have nothing to say, I replied, starting to close the door. Wait, she said, pressing her hand against it. I know you're angry, but my kids, they don't deserve this. They might end up homeless. Your kids are innocent, I agreed, which is why CPS is ensuring they're in a safe environment with parents who can provide for them. The parenting classes are humiliating, she said, tears streaming down her face. And Henry can't find work because of his record. We're losing everything. You lost everything, I corrected, the moment you decided to humiliate me in front of 30 people for not giving you my property. It was just words, Claire. People say things when they're stressed. Dad hit me, I snapped. And you clapped. You stood there and cheered while your father assaulted me because I wouldn't give you something that wasn't yours. Maris looked down. I know that was wrong. No, I said firmly. You don't get to minimize this. You planned my public shaming. You called me a family failure. You agreed when Dad called me a barren leech. You clapped when he hit me. And now you want my help because the consequences are hard? What can I do to fix this? She pleaded. I considered her question. Nothing, I said finally. You can't undo your words. You can't erase the humiliation, you can't take back the assault, and you can't change the fact that you showed me who you really are. Maris Lenz. That's right now that Maris pulled out her phone and started recording, hoping to catch me saying something incriminating. "Say that again," she demanded, holding up the phone. "Tell everyone how you deliberately destroyed an innocent family because you're a bitter, childless woman who hates seeing others happy." I smiled into her camera. "I stopped enabling financial abuse and reported crimes to the authorities. If you want to record this, let's get the facts straight." I pulled out my own phone and started recording. "Maris, are you denying that you and our parents planned to publicly pressure me into giving you my property?" "That's not. Are you denying Dad stole from Mom's medical fund to give you money?" "He was helping family." "Are you denying you lied about your finances while borrowing from multiple people?" "Everyone struggles. Are you denying you clapped when Dad hit me?" Maris paled. She'd started recording to trap me, but instead, she'd created evidence against herself. "You can't prove any of that," she stammered. "Actually, I can," I said, still recording. "I have bank records, social media posts, witness statements, and now this conversation where you haven't denied anything." Realizing her mistake, Maris stopped recording and lunged for my phone. I stepped back. "Don't touch me," I said loudly. "You've already been part of one assault. I won't let you try another." Security arrived. My assistant had called them when Maris started yelling. As they escorted her out, Maris turned back with one last threat. "This isn't over, Claire. I'll make sure everyone knows who you really are." "They already do," I replied. "That's your problem." The lobby confrontation, caught on building security cameras, somehow hit social media. Maris's aggression, failure to deny my accusations, and attempt to grab my phone painted her as the aggressor. The fallout was swift. Her remaining friends pulled away. Family members who'd stayed neutral picked a side, mine. Henry's parents, who'd taken them in, started questioning his choice of wife. But Maris wasn't done. A week later, my lawyer called. "Claire, I've got interesting news," he said. "Your sister hired a lawyer. They're threatening to sue you for defamation, emotional distress, and something called tortious interference with family relationships." I almost laughed. "She's suing me for telling the truth?" "Her lawyer sent a demand letter asking for damages and a public apology," he said. "They also want you to stop investigating their finances." "What's their case like?" "Weak," he said. "Everything you've shared is factual or based on your documented experiences. Truth is a complete defense against defamation. The emotional distress claim won't hold up since they orchestrated a public attack on you. And tortious interference with family relationships isn't a valid claim here. You can't be sued for exposing crimes just because the perpetrators are family." He paused. "They're likely trying to scare you into backing down." "But we're family," she said, sobbing. "No," I cut her off. "Family doesn't treat each other the way you treated me. Family doesn't gang up on one another. Family doesn't assault each other. And when someone's hurt, family doesn't cheer. Claire, I'm begging you." "Are you begging now?" I said. "Where was your humility when you demanded my cabin? Where was your care for family when you mocked me in front of everyone?" Maris sobbed on my doorstep. Part of me felt a pang for the little sister I once knew before she became entitled and cruel. But most of me remembered standing in that room, hand on my burning cheek as people applauded my pain. "I'm sorry," she said through tears. "I'm sure you are," I replied. "You're sorry you're facing consequences. You're sorry your plan failed. You're sorry you're losing your home, job, and lifestyle. But are you sorry for how you treated me? Are you sorry for exploiting my kindness for years? Are you sorry for cheering when Dad called me a barren leech?" She looked at me, and I saw in her eyes that she was sorry, but only because she'd lost everything.